us. If anybody comes in, we'll catch them up. I'm Brian Gibbons. I'm the police chief here in Chatham Borough, so I want to thank you very much for coming down to the middle school. I think it's good. This will get posted, but the nice thing is that you will be able to ask some questions, and hopefully we can answer them and give you some additional feedback. I want to thank Acting Lieutenant Wayne Shivers, who put the presentation together for you today. Acting Captain Rick Jarumba, who's also here to support the program. Many of you probably know Tom Chung, our SLEO. He just hosted the Internet Crimes Against Children presentation just before this one. So if you haven't had an opportunity to listen to Tom when it comes to dealing with internet safety with your children, it's an awesome class. In fact, it was basically updated this time around, so it had all new information, which I thought was great. So thank you, Tom. There is no need to write anything down here today because everything we're going to go over today is posted on our website already. So if you go to chathamborough.org and you go to the police department section, in the bottom right you'll see a tab for documents. As soon as you click there, it'll take you to another section. You'll see e-bike at the bottom. Click on that. There's this presentation will be up there, but in addition to that will be the Rutgers mobility presentation. That is very, very important, valuable information that you're going to learn. It is, I would consider, the gold standard for everything mobility, from hoverboards to roller skates to e-bikes and beyond. So take a look at that. If you want more information, we're not going to dive quite that deep into all of those mobility devices, but if you want more, that's a great spot for you to visit. We also have a very condensed safety guide on there as well to help you identify the classes of e-bikes that you may be dealing with your children, may not actually know what they possess, and we're seeing that a lot. The purpose of this training is to educate parents and guardians on e-bikes and their appropriate use and their safe use. These bikes can be dangerous. There is data coming out that is showing an increase in injuries to children riding e-bikes and adults, actually. Thankfully, we're not seeing a huge increase in that data. We keep good stats here in Chatham. We are not seeing a dramatic increase in injuries resulting from e-bikes. We have had some, but probably on par for what we would see in any given year for regular bicycles. And maybe actually a little less. So this is a great opportunity to sort of nip it in the bud because I think that it's going to move up like the rest of the country is and the rest of New Jersey. We'll see an increase. What's most important is safety with e-bikes, and this is being recorded also, so if you want to refresh your memory with anything that's covered, you can watch it later on, or share it with some friends and family or other parents with the school district. But the safety involving everything, most especially now with this presentation, e-bikes, starts at home. It really does. So we're really going to lean on you as parents and guardians to help us in maintaining safe mobility in Chatham Borough with the use of e-bikes. This course will give you the material you need to know to make sure that your kids are operating these bikes safely. I am a huge fan of these bikes. I bet all of us would agree you wish you had these bikes when you were 11 years old. I know, I like riding them now, right? So I don't want to see this opportunity for the kids who really enjoy riding them properly. I don't want to see legislation that ends up spoiling this. But what we are seeing is some kids are riding it either recklessly, some young adults, and adults are riding recklessly, or some are just riding bikes that are totally inappropriate. And that is going to spoil a beautiful opportunity. I cannot tell you how many children I've spoken to, my kids as well, who love the idea. Now my kids do not have an e-bike. I'm be honest with you. But their friends have e-bikes, and they're able to sort of traverse pretty far distances on e-bikes and see friends that they would ordinarily not be able to see on other side of town and things like that. So it's really awesome that they have this opportunity. I just hope we don't see it spoiled by those who are riding it recklessly or those who are just outright riding bikes that would otherwise be considered motorcycles. So when Lieutenant Shivers is done talking about this presentation, I want you to take home with you what's most important, that the safety starts at home, that we need your help to make sure this is being done properly. And then when it sort of gets past that, we'll pick up the baton, much like we talked about earlier in the class that we just taught. We will pick up the baton, and then we will start to make sure that the kids are riding it properly. We are moving from what was initially a partnership education campaign into an enforcement campaign, which means that we're going to be a little more heavy-handed when it comes time to address violations with e-bikes. So please share that with your friends and family so that they know and they have fair warning that we have done a lot of work educating the children and families. We have done special enforcement details right here at the middle school and around town. Dozens of times we've come in here to talk with the kids about the importance of riding e-bike safety and things like that. So we're looking for your help to sort of help us maybe miss some of the gaps, to address some of the gaps. And then after this presentation, we'll have a little time for some question and answer. So I'm going to turn it over to our expert here, Lieutenant Wayne Shivers, Acting Lieutenant Wayne Shivers.
I am no expert, so, but I will try my best to navigate through this.
And we're all struggling with this a little bit. It is changing very, very quickly, the laws that surround electric bikes, and there is legislation pending that may change the way this gets addressed moving forward. So I hope that it makes it safer for everybody. So thank you for coming, and then I'll just jump in, and Captain Jerome will just jump in periodically to highlight a couple points. One last thing I wanted to say. For parents, if you're allowing your kids to ride an e-bike, here's what I would say. And you should know, if an e-bike costs you $5,000, it's probably not the e-bike you want them riding. My first car cost me $250. So adjusting for inflation, I don't know, and I know kids are riding around $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 e-bikes. I know kids who are riding around with e-bikes with helmets that cost $800. Now, it just stands to reason, if you have to put an $800 helmet on a 13-year-old kid on an e-bike, is it the right bike you want them riding, right? So we're going to point some of this out moving forward, and I may be preaching to the choir with some of you, but some of you at home may not realize this. And I think when we're done here, maybe you make some adjustments when you get home with some of the e-bikes.
So I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Also prayer, by the way, I see you in the back. Why don't you come up front? So don't be shy. You're one of us too. You come up here. We need a man in uniform. Good-looking man like him too to come up here. So see that smile. All right. So thank you guys again. I'm Acting Lieutenant Wayne Shivers, and we're going to kind of go through some of the laws that's involved, some safety tips that what we can do as parents. So with that said, I'm in a unique situation. I am a dad, right? Obviously, I'm a police officer. So I have an 11-year-old son. I think I can relate to a lot of the people that's here in the audience. He's also in the middle school. He's a 6th grader. Not here, but in a different school district. So he's also an e-bike rider, right? So I bought him an e-bike. So, you know, he was going through the whole thing. How many people here have children that have e-bikes? Raise your hand. Okay, so we can kind of relate. So if he was like anything like my son, he was like hounding me about getting these e-bikes. And I was nervous, obviously, right? So we see the kids all zipping through towns, and we have our reservations about getting an e-bike, right? So, you know, Dad, look, I got good school grades. I'm doing well. You said if I got good grades, if I'm a good boy, you give me an e-bike. Okay, no problem. Show me what e-bike you want to buy. So I knew nothing about e-bikes. I'm just as misinformed as everyone else is, and I'm a police officer. You're supposed to be like enforcing the law and stuff, right? I have no idea. So he shows me A Ceron. Does anybody know what a Ceron is? My man back there, right? How old are you? 15, right? So that's right in that, they go pretty fast, right? So what's the fastest they could go? 60 miles per hour? 80. See? So he shows me this e-bike that goes 60 miles per hour. And I'm like, what? No way this is legal. So I had to look into it, and I saw like, it's a class 3 bike, which I had no idea what a class 3 bike was, right? So that's a bike that goes above 20 miles per hour. If it's a class 3 bike, you need registration and insurance. My son's not gonna get a bike which requires a registration insurance. So I dug a little bit deeper, then I saw that there's class 1 and class 2 bikes that go up to 20 miles per hour. Okay, a little bit more reasonable, right? So we're gonna kind of dive into what's a class 1 bike, what's a class 2 bike, what's a class 3 bike, and what that means, okay? So, e-bike safety enforcement, okay? Kind of already spoke about who we are, our school partners here, our community, the parents, all of you who are here tonight. Why we're here? Because we have some concerns, right, about e-bike safety, especially for our kids. And we're gonna educate you guys. We're gonna work on this together as a community partnership to kind of figure this all out.
I just want to add one point. We're sort of getting past that education phase. We're now into the enforcement side. We appreciate the partnership, but we're now going to start to enforce it. Did anybody get the email from the superintendent of schools today? Did you notice what she spoke about us coming on and doing inspections? We will periodically come on and do inspections. If Sleo Chung finds a class 3 bike, you get one shot. Parent has to remove it. If it comes back again, we impound it. So we really, they're just way too unsafe. They're illegal, and they don't have any place on the middle school grounds. So please share it with your friends and family. I promise you, you're going to meet a lot of friends and family. You have a lot of friends and family in town who have kids who have what are considered class 3 e-bikes, and they're not permitted on school property. All right, so please share it to save them the trouble. Because once we tow it, remember, you need a license to ride them also. But once we tow it, you need to register it and insure it before you remove it. Certainly the registration. So you can't get it out of the tow yard without going to DMV to register this bike. All right, so please make sure if you have a class, if your kid has a class 3 bike, you have a conversation with them tonight about it.
So they're pretty fast. They can go up to 20 miles per hour or more, right? That's what we just discussed, the class 3 bikes. They're unsafe, the unsafe riding endangers pedestrians, motorists, and the riders. So if you are riding an e-bike, whether it's a class 1, class 2, shouldn't be class 3, but if it is class 3, the helmet use is mandatory under the age of 15. I believe, under the age of 17, and I believe you cannot operate a class 3 bike, which in the state of New Jersey is considered a motorized bicycle, if you're under the age of 15, okay? We're following an education partnership and, like the chief said, enforcement model, which we don't want to do, but unfortunately we're going to have to get to that point where we may have to start enforcing the law, right? So let's look at the class 1 bike. What's the top speed? 20 miles per hour. Is it pedal assisted? Yes. The throttle, no license and registration, doesn't have to be insured, and is treated essentially the same as any muscle powered bicycle. Local restrictions will apply with this as well. It's pretty much similar with the class 2 bicycle. Now the class 3 is where you see from, it says 20 miles per hour here, but anything over 20 is actually a class 3 bicycle. It's also pedal assisted. It often has a throttle. You need a license, registration, and the bike needs to be insured because in the state of New Jersey, it is considered a motorized bicycle, okay? It's treated as a motorized bike and a moped.
Class 2 is also come with a throttle also.
And as Captain Jerome said, class 2s typically come with a throttle as well, all right? So parents are often misled about the bike class, like I was. I had no clue when my son wanted one, right? So you have to check for a classification sticker, which is actually on the bike. We'll let you know if it's class 1, class 2, or class 3 bicycle, or motorized bike, rather.
I just want to add one point. It's this simple because we're consuming a lot of our time at headquarters really studying this material. Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes are, for all intents and purposes, under Title 39 or what is the statutes that deal with motor vehicle violations are considered bicycles. So class 1 and class 2 are bicycles. Class 3 are motorized bicycles. That's the huge distinction. If you have a class 1 or class 2 and you augment or adjust it or change it in a way that makes it go faster, you've crossed the line out of a bicycle to a motorized bicycle. And that's what's happening in a lot of instances. I just want to really break it down so you understand how simplified this is. Class 1 and class 2. Class 1 bicycles, you pedal, you need a little help, the engine automatically kicks in and gets you up to speed maximum of 20 miles an hour. Class 2, you can pedal or you can hit the button. It helps you get up to speed, maximum 20 miles per hour. And why do they use 20 miles per hour? I think because most people could probably ride a bicycle about 20 miles per hour on a flat surface. Has anybody here encountered a situation where they're walking on the sidewalk and someone said by them on a e-bike? Anybody? Or even on a pedal bike. So these are the types of things that we're addressing with this, not only with this presentation, but some ordinance changes that are coming out in short order that will help address the proliferation of e-bikes. But that's some of the safety issues. So it's not just the bicyclists, right? It's also pedestrians we're worried about. Downtown, on the sidewalks, especially when people are eating, we're worried about that. So these are the things we're addressing, and we'll get into greater detail. Yeah, sorry.
And not to cut anyone off, but it's particularly difficult. I mean, we just recently had an e-bike that was involved in a little crash. Even when we have the bike in our custody, we're trying to figure out what class of bike it is. If it doesn't have a sticker, or you're looking at the serial number and you're, AI Google searching it, it may be a very similar bike made by, business XYZ that has the exact same bike by business ABC, and no one really knows. So I can appreciate the position that the parents are in when they're buying these bikes, whether it's on Amazon or whatever site you're purchasing them from. This particular bike, when I Google searched it, I found it on Home Depot by a different name. I found it on Walmart by a different name, but they all kind of had like the similar, battery power and the same miles per hour. It looked like the exact same bike, just different brand name, but it never specified this is a class 1 bike or this is a class 2 bike. It just specified that it didn't go over a certain amount of miles per hour. So when you are purchasing these bikes or doing your homework, just take the speed, and as long as it's 20 or under, you're in good shape. If it's above that, then you're into class 3 where it needs to be registered, insured, and they need a license. And so just keep that in mind when you're buying these bikes. It's not always going to say, class 2 bike, here you go. So.
And if your kid is 12 years old, they're not even old enough to drive class 3. They're not old enough to get the license. So you can, if any of you have used ChatGPT and you're not sure, take a picture of your kid's bike, put it in chat, and it'll tell you pretty accurately what class of bike it is, what its speed is. Another really important point, because there's some ambiguity with this and it confuses a lot of people. It is not a class 1 or class 2 because you ride it at 20 or less. It is a class 1 or class 2 because it cannot go above 20. So if your kids are riding a bike and they tell you, Mom or Dad, I'm riding it at 15 miles an hour, but the bike's potential is 28, it's illegal, especially if they're below the age of 15 and they don't have a license. All right, it's not how fast they're riding it, it's the capability of the bicycle. It should not go above 20 miles an hour on a flat surface, ever. And if your kid is zipping down the sidewalk or the street, and it looks to you like they're going above 20, then you might need to see if they made any changes to the bike.
Or I know my wife uses that, I think it's like Life 360.
Yeah.
Is that? She tracks my kids everywhere, and she'll know like how fast my kid's driving. So I don't know if you guys have that, but that might be an option to see how fast they're riding.
That's a really great idea. If your kids on Life 360 are getting around town at 40 miles an hour, and they're 12, they're probably on a bike that they shouldn't be on. that's an outstanding idea. I never thought of that. It's great.
Sorry.
Even I'm learning something here today, folks. Everybody's going to learn something today. So I want to also thank Justin Strickland and Brian Hargrove from the council for coming out here today to support this. Not only support it, but to learn. We sit in meetings continuously coming up with ideas for how we're going to make some changes, and there will be some changes that are coming out of this. So thank you for both for being a part of it.
Okay, kind of touch on what they said, like, you know, they can manipulate these bikes, kids, to make them go faster than what they are, than what they actually buy them, right? So they could get a class 1, class 2 bike, but they could kind of manipulate the speeds, so now they have a class 3 bike, right? So now it's considered a motorized bicycle in the state of New Jersey, right? So some of the other violations too that we're gonna start seeing more is, you know, swapping stickers as well to disguise a class 3 bike as a class 2 to kind of fool us, because now they don't need a driver's license, they don't need to get it registered, right? They don't need to get insured. So these are kind of the difficulties that we're going to encounter going forward, because this is, like I said, this is new for everyone, right? So we're trying to figure this out. And first and foremost is safety, right? We want to make sure everybody's safe. We want to make sure all of our kids are safe out there, like my son who's riding these e-bikes as well. Like I said, to touch on it again, thank God I looked into it and saw that it's a class 1 bike, because he's, you know, we live in a different town, but it's very similar to downtown Chatham, but he's zipping our downtown and everything like that. So it makes me worried, right? So we just want to make sure we're safe, and that's it. So summonses can be issued to parents as well for illegal bikes, right? We don't want to see that happen. And these summonses that kids can be issued may delay getting their driver's license when they get their learning permit at 16. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, that's huge, folks. We've talked to the municipal prosecutor about this. You yourselves, as parents, can be held liable for allowing your child to ride a class 3 bike. For all intents and purposes, they call them motorized bicycles. Some of them are doing 60 miles an hour. They're like motorcycles, basically. You could be held liable. So you would get a summons for allowing an underage, underage or unlicensed individual from operating a class 3 motorized bike, right? In addition, if your daughter or son is issued a summons for those class 3 bike violations, it could delay significantly their ability to get their driver's license when they turn 17. And we do not want to see that happen, but I will tell you, we are getting very strict with class 3 bikes. It's basically, we're at a 0 tolerance. So if you have a class 3 bike at home and you didn't pay attention, be prepared. Summonses are coming, because it's going to ruin the class 1 and class 2s for everybody else. That's what's going to end up happening. So please share that information with your friends and family. Class 3 bikes in the hands of kids that are not old enough and not licensed to drive them will be strictly enforced, and so too will the parents that are allowing them to drive them or ride them. All right?
Talk some about the safety issues with batteries, okay? They can overheat. Don't leave them, for the people here that have e-bikes, if your kids have e-bikes, don't leave them charged overnight for continuous charging. There's been incidents where that resulted in a fire for overcharging, okay? Keep away from direct sunlight, and like I kind of said, make sure they're manufacturer-approved chargers, okay? Don't just buy like bogus website, some e-bike charger, okay? So, sidewalk riding is restricted downtown in Chatham Borough, and that doesn't go just for e-bikes, that also goes for skateboards, regular bicycles, things of that nature, okay? Can't ride them on sidewalks, it's against borough ordinance. Parks and natural trails often prohibit e-bikes. Shared use paths allow for class 1 and class 2 unless locally restricted by ordinance. Okay, the chief kind of touched on that. There's some changes coming down the pipe. All right. Riders must obey stop signs and traffic signals. So even though you're riding, even if it's a muscle-powered bicycle, regular bicycle, you still have to follow the law as far as the roadway goes and where you're riding your bike. Okay. Visibility and lights required at night. And for class 1 and class 2 bikes, you also need a bell that's on it. That's required by New Jersey law because it's considered a regular bicycle. Okay, so.
Okay, go back 1 second. So I'm going to break it to you here. There will be some changes coming to ordinance, likely in the very near future, that will restrict where these can be ridden. Hot off the press, get ready. They won't be able to ride them in the parks. You're very likely going to see that stop. We've gotten probably half a dozen or more complaints about kids riding e-bikes in the parks. We've gotten complaints, ironically, from the middle school about the kids after hours riding the bikes on the field and messing up the turf. So please talk with your kids. They can ride them to the parks, but they're not going to be able to ride them in the parks. Trails and things like that, in most cases, are going to be off limits. Sidewalks, depending on the age, in most cases are going to be off limits. And they really have to follow the rules of the road. They really do. When it comes to sidewalks outside downtown, we know that it's a little touchy, especially when kids are 9 and 8 years old. So that will not be an issue. But for the older kids, they really should not be on the sidewalk with any bike, honestly, much less an electric bike that goes pretty fast when you hit the one. So there are likely going to be some changes. That's in the council's venue, but we're all pressing to make some of what we consider to be very reasonable, measured changes that will make it much safer for the kids to operate on here. Please share with your kids or your nephews and nieces that if they ride it inappropriately in areas they're not supposed to be riding it, they're going to spoil it for themselves. They're really going to spoil it because they're dangerous, and we're just not going to be in a situation where we're going to allow that kind of reckless driving or riding to happen and put other people at risk. So please share that message with all your friends and family. How they ride it and where they ride it matters.
All right, now we're going to start having more education campaigns, kind of like what we're doing tonight, right? I'm sure the chief will want to set up something in the future, maybe at headquarters, so we can invite people in to start talking more about e-bike safety related stuff, even with the kids, right? So, you know, there's something down the pipe we spoke about, giving ice cream tickets, right? If we see kids with legal bikes riding around, wearing helmets, they're within the law. There's different campaigns that we could do in that respect. But on the enforcement side, we're going to start doing some more special enforcement kind of details, or special enforcement traffic related details. What that means is we're going to be going out, we're going to make sure the kids that are riding bicycles, if they're legal first and foremost, class 1, class 2 bikes. But if we see class 3 bikes, unfortunately, you know, we're going to have to do our job, and we're going to have to let the parents know because they may be unaware. They don't know that their son's driving a bike or their daughter's riding a bike that is considered like a motorcycle in the state of New Jersey, right? They have to be licensed, registered, insured. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to bring it to that point if it gets really out of control. And I think the chief already kind of touched on that, right? So, illegal bikes, like we said, may be impounded. There's going to be more from the community services side of things, doing inspections on school property. First offense is a warning with a bike removed by a parent or guardian. If those offenses continues, we may have to impound some bikes, okay, for class 3 bicycles.
And it's important to note that first offense warning is on school property. That was sort of a bridge with the school district to sort of give everybody an opportunity. We may not observe that first warning opportunity for class 3 in the field. If you're riding down Main Street and you're riding a class 3 bike at 40 or 50 miles an hour, you're probably going to see it get towed. All right, so we're really pressing the gas pedal on enforcement. Class 1 and class 2 bikes that are legal but ridden a bit inappropriate, then we have a little bit of discretion and we have ways to deal with that, including the education piece that we're doing here at the middle school to teach all the kids how much they're going to ruin it for themselves. So I would love to have had a bike like this when I was 12. We hope they get the message, but if they don't, then it's that carrot stick, and we go to the stick.
So what we want to do, right? We want to verify that our kids have what the e-bike class is and its top speed. All right, we have to set rules in our households, okay, of when they can ride the bikes, times, things like that, which I'm sure you already have. We have to require that they wear the helmets, the lights, the reflectors, okay? So this kind of all starts at home, right? This isn't necessarily something that the police deal with. But as parents, this is something that maybe you should look at if your kids do have e-bikes or if they want e-bikes. Inspect the bikes to make sure there's no illegal modifications on there, and just encourage them to be responsible, right? You know, set a good example, show them if you have an e-bike of your own. I think there's one adult here, right, in the audience that said that they're getting an e-bike, right? Is that correct? So if you have children and they see that you're riding responsibly, I think that sets a good example, right? All right, so our community partnership, we're going to work with the schools here like we're doing tonight, EMS, and obviously you guys as parents. Okay, joint education campaigns to raise the awareness, and this shared responsibility that we have will result in fewer crashes and injuries. They're not toys. Some of them are regulated as motor vehicles under New Jersey law, like we said with Class 3 bikes. And the parents must look beyond the stickers and apps to figure out what the kids are riding, and it starts at home, like we said. So we'll continue to do our education enforcement side of things, and hopefully this kind of sends a message tonight for people watching at home. Hopefully they're a little bit more educated in what different kind of class bikes are and everything like that. So
some of what we're seeing is either software changes to a Class 1 and Class 2 bike, and the software change, they call it jailbreaking. That will allow the bike to go above 20 miles an hour, which then makes it illegal. Or actual hardware changes, where there was a governor wire on some of the bikes. I couldn't tell you which wire it is, to be honest with you, but I know this much. If your kid has an e-bike, there's a wire cut on it, they're probably riding it inappropriately. All right, has anybody here ever fallen off a pedal bike? Right? It's not fun. My daughter nearly lost a tooth recently, and we're still dealing with it. This is almost a year, we're still dealing with it. She had braces on. If she didn't have the braces, she would have lost a tooth, for sure. At about, I don't know, 5 miles an hour. But if you're riding a bike at 25, 30, 40 miles an hour, especially without a helmet, but even with a helmet, and you go off that bike, you're in trouble. You are in very, very serious trouble. That would likely result in a trauma visit. So we are working with the emergency squad, as Lieutenant Shivers talked about, to keep an eye on how many of these are resulting in serious injuries. I can tell you anecdotally, Morristown Medical Center is saying that they are seeing more injuries, head injuries, or what they consider neurological related injuries from these types of bikes. Thankfully, in Chatham, our stats are not showing that just yet, which is great, but I anticipate if we're not careful, we too will see that same dynamic. And that's is why we want to partner with you, with the schools, with the emergency squad, and the children to make sure they get to enjoy these bicycles for years to come safely without hurting other pedestrians or hurting themselves. But it has happened. We have seen adults go down on Fairmount Avenue hard, and it was bad on an e-bike. So we're seeing it across from young kids to adults who are having a difficult time managing an e-bike that can zip along at 20 miles an hour. 20 miles an hour. I'll tell you a private story. I was riding with my kids because one of their friends wanted to get an e-bike and wanted a Class 3 e-bike, so I taught them out of that. And I have another one I have to work with. I said, that bike goes 50 miles an hour, and we were driving at 40 miles an hour with the windows down. I said, if you were to jump out of this vehicle and fall off that bike at this speed, it would be catastrophic. And that's what's likely going to happen. So I want to scare you, but that's what happens when you ride a bicycle that was supposed to go at 20 miles an hour, and they cut the wire, and it's a governor wire to stop it from going. There's YouTube videos. They're learning in 6 seconds how to adjust the bike to make it go faster. So pay attention to that. They're also buying bikes and then changing the stickers themselves. We're seeing some kids do that. So they're putting on a Class 1 or Class 2 sticker to fool their parents to think that it's a Class 1 or Class 2 bike when it was actually labeled Class 3. They sell these stickers on Amazon. You can buy whatever sticker you want to put on your bike. But if you want a Class 1, buy the sticker and you put it on now, it's a Class 1. We're not so easily fooled. I'd say early on, we were pretty easily fooled because we were baffled by how quickly this came up and how fast the e-bike revolution proliferated. So we were a little caught off guard a bit early on. Not so much anymore. So we're pretty savvy at figuring out whether it's a class 1, class 2, class 3. It might take us a few minutes, but we'll figure it out. And you can too. So do it and don't let them ride it. You yourselves will suffer some consequences for it. And then the worst consequence of them all. This is the worst consequence. It's not going to be the summons you get. It's not going to be the impounding of the bike. It's going to be when we call you up to say your kid's at Morristown Medical Center with a head injury because they were doing 40 miles an hour down Fairmount Avenue on a bike you bought them. All right? So it really does take partnership. I don't want to have to report that to you ever. I don't want my officers to have to do that, and I don't want the kids to have to deal with that. But that's what we fear will happen if everybody's not working together to make sure that the kids are riding these bikes safely. So let's take some questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you guys very much for this opportunity to educate the public. I have an e-bike. My kid is in high school. You know, they were given notice. E-bike will be told. E-bike will be confiscated unless they're registered and insured. I went to DMV. It's an E-Class 3 because it's going 35 miles an hour. However, it doesn't have, I was told I need a VIN number. The bike doesn't have a VIN number. I can get it insured, but I can't get it registered. They didn't know what to do to advise me on how, they just told me the bike needs a VIN number, or, you know, the manufacturer needs to give me some kind of error. I contacted the manufacturer, you know, gave me a runaround. So it's a gray area that we don't know what to do.
And it's changing. So there's legislation pending right now to potentially make even class 1 and class 2s register. So I could see it moving in that direction. I would have thought the serial number for the bike would have sufficed, but I can't say that with certainty. That's more of a, you know, listen, DMV is a big operation, or Motor Vehicle Commission, MVC, is a big operation. And they don't make changes really well and really fast, you know, as a state operation, so it's difficult for them. It is difficult for us, in fairness to them.
So is the state of New Jersey registering the class 3?
Yes.
Using which number? Serial number?
Listen, you would have to confirm that with Motor Vehicle Commission,
That's what I'm
but
saying.
I would think it would have to be the serial number that I'm not aware of them. This hasn't been.
This is the state legislator working with the DMV,
Yeah.
right? So there's some miscommunication there. This is all new for everyone, right? So they have to work out some kinks before, you know, they determine what number they're going to use for registration and things of that nature. But if you can't register it because you don't have a VIN and the DMV is unwilling to do it, then it just can't be registered. You at least did your due diligence, right, to get it registered. But there's nothing on the DMV's end.
And that Rutgers mobility presentation we put up gets into much more granular detail about what you need to do with these types of bikes. I wonder if that has some material in there that might help you. And then we may be able to help you with motor vehicle and see if we can reach out to somebody and find out how you get registered. But it's a class 3 bike, and those bikes are supposed to be registered. If they're not caught up to it yet, then I suspect that we'll see it shortly.
They'll treat it like a moped, I would imagine, in the near future. That has.
Moped has a VIN number.
Yeah.
They told me it has, you know, has some kind of number.
They'll
that this bike did not
eventually
have.
go down that route, as treat it like a moped, where it would have.
You know what, I'm going to write that down because we are meeting with district leaders on a statewide level here in Chatham to discuss this and come up with some solutions. And that's a great opportunity for us to share that your situation. So maybe if you wouldn't mind leaving your name and number before we leave, and then I can explain to them what your situation is and how they, at the state level, may be able to get that fixed sooner than later. That's a real problem.
Two questions. Number one, where can they ride these? And since a lot of us own them, if we have something that's, you know, like mine goes tops 28, and you have the dealership on it, so you can limit it. But as parents,
so, no. So the bike itself cannot have the capability to go above 20. And if you're telling me,
physically change the software so it cannot go above 20.
so when you purchase that bike,
Yes.
it sounds to me like you purchased a class 3 motorized bicycle.
Yeah, 28.
That might be a case law issue. I would say no. That bike was designed as a class 3 e-bike and it's sold as a class 3 e-bike. It's a class 3 e-bike. And that's a big misconception we have seen with a lot of families who thought, oh, my kid's only riding it at 10 or 15. My understanding is, and this would be my advice to you now, is that you do not allow your kids to ride it, even if you adjust it.
Is there any place they're allowed to ride it?
So,
Are you,
you're talking about in private property? So,
well, are we talking class 3?
It's class 3 pedal bike, it can go up to 28.
yeah,
Just take it as an example, right?
no, right.
How about 56, you're crazy, but so take something that goes to 28.
No, well, if you're licensed, registered, and insured,
No,
Then
no,
of
no,
age.
they can't be on period is the answer.
That's right.
correct.
Yeah, so they have to be a certain age and have a license to operate those. And we're seeing a lot of that because the manufacturers are coming up with versions that look like class 3s, or we're seeing some of these that look like dirt bikes. The Zion you talk about, this type, all different bikes. My understanding is class 3, under the age of 15 without a license cannot. Under the age of 15 can't ride it at all. 15 or older without a license, they can't ride.
Got it.
Especially with this gentleman saying that they can't even register them.
Yeah,
Which-
there's some place that you take.
Unbeknownst to me, we're learning something too. But they obviously haven't caught up enough with the law at DMV to even be able to register some of these bikes. And like I said earlier, some of these bikes, you're buying them and you don't know where they're coming from. You know, maybe if you're in the market for a class 3, maybe take his, lesson learned and say, hey, does it have a VIN? If it doesn't have a VIN, then maybe don't buy it yet.
Another really valuable point, and Lieutenant Shivers covered it, all bikes, regardless of class, regardless of whether they have electric or not, have to ride by the rules of the road, right? All bikes are supposed to come to a stop at a stop sign. Doesn't matter if you're pedaling or hitting a throttle, right? They're really not supposed to be on the sidewalk. We understand, especially for younger children, if you have a 6 or 7-year-old, we certainly, that's different. That's okay. Downtown, should be on the sidewalks at all. So what should they do? Should they go into the street or should they walk? We would suggest you walk. So tell your kids, if they're downtown and they're in the business district, I prefer a 12-year-old not riding to Main Street with a bicycle. I prefer they get off it and walk it. So you're going to see a lot of walk your bike signs coming up, even in the parks, things like that. You want to walk it through the park to get somewhere, that's fine. You want to ride it to the park, that's fine, but not inside the park. That's coming in short order. So my point is they have to ride by the rules of the road. They need to respect the rules of the road. They're not supposed to be passing vehicles on the right. We see that on a routine basis. They're zipping down all the cars that are stopped in traffic, and they're getting ready to go through, and a car goes to make a right turn. So what do you have? We have seen that a couple times. So
that's actually my question is, we live next to Scott Herchick, so my kid's he's got the right bike, he's got the right, all the right, equipment, and I think he's a pretty responsible kid, but I followed him the other day because I'm paranoid about him being on Paramount. And I was like, what does he do when he gets to Southern Boulevard, he wants to go to school and he's turning left? Does he know the rules of the road? And is there any sort of requirement pending that they at least know how to operate a bike on a main road? How do I know that he's using the right hand signals to turn left? And he knows how to yield to the right people. He knows where to look. Because it's essentially what he's going to have to learn if he has a car.
I mean, mean, if he's at a controlled intersection and you're worried about that, have him get off the bike and cross the road like someone walking would do. That would be the safest option. So if you're unsure, or he's unsure of what he's doing,
Yeah.
then
I get that, but then, okay, so take another example, Fairmount, there's a lot of like big, trucks that are landscaping trucks. Like, how does he handle that? Like, because when cars are coming, they have to make sure that there's a safe way to get around them. But if he's going around them and the cars are trying to get around him as well, how does he know to make like the right decisions? Like, I'm trying to guide him and to make sure that he's being very cautious defensively operating that bike, but like, is there anything that would require them to like maybe pass a, I don't know, like a road biking test or take some sort of education?
No, so right now there is not, but nothing stops you from.
Is there something that?
There are courses, yes, there are bike safety courses, including now you're seeing an increase in e-bike safety courses. In fact, we're recommending that be one of the requirements when we write a summons if it violates e-bike safety. So we're working with the prosecutor to do that, to mandate an e-bike safety course. So that's something maybe as an opportunity, maybe we can host one and then bring in parents. But I'll say this to you. We are not seeing that. I wish we were seeing more kids that are really riding carefully and worried about how they're going to navigate. What we're seeing are kids darting right out into the street. Zero stopping sometimes at stop signs, taking off on us. You know, we go to stop them, they take off. The one crash on Main Street was a motorized bicycle that took off on the Madison Police Department and crashed in Chatham. So taking off from the police. You know, that would be an improvement in some cases, having the kids think about how they have to do this. And if they're too young to make those decisions, then an e-bike may not be the right vehicle for them right now, right? That's the tough decision you have to consider. But there are e-bike classes and regular bicycle classes that will teach rules of the road, and I think maybe that's another good suggestion. We have some sort of second wall.
And if there is a section of roadway or town that you feel particularly uncomfortable with them riding on the roadway, like we had said before, the ordinance may change, but as it stands right now, you just can't ride in the downtown business district unless you're a certain age or under. I believe it's 10 or under, you're allowed. Outside of the business, you're actually allowed to ride on the sidewalks as of right now. That may change, or that may come with a age limit for them to be allowed to ride on the sidewalks. And then the older children, whatever that age, whatever the council decides, then they will have to ride the roadway. In which case, you know, like I said, if it's a controlled intersection, you worry, just have them walk it.
And you're doing the right thing. You're following them. You're making sure he's exhibiting good riding behaviors. It's not just them we have to worry about. We have to worry about people who are driving vehicles who are not paying attention either. So we're dealing with some of that also, and they create another set of problems. Remember also that if you're passing a pedestrian or bicyclist, you're supposed to have at least 4 feet of space when you pass them, and you have to slow down when you're passing them. So if you're passing someone on a bicycle for some reason, you gotta give them ample room so that everybody's safe.
So, what I'm hearing is are the legislature coming out with laws mandating, you know, when we're growing up, you know, you've got on a bike, your parents show you how to ride a bike, and you ride a bike. Is legislation coming down the pipe that if you have an e-bike that is motorized, you know, if you have a bike that is motorized, whether it's 20 miles an hour or class 3, it is something that you need training before you can operate it?
I can't say, listen, legislators put a lot of stuff forward. Not all of it moves out of committee and moves and gets signed into law. You see that all the time. There's thousands of bills that get written every single year. I can tell you there are bills that are being penned right now, some that have already been written, that would require some additional regulations for class 1 and class 2 bicycles. Whether or not that's going to pass, I don't know, but there is a push for that.
As it stands right now, bicycles, whether it's a mountain bike or a BMX bike, it's just a bike. Class 1 and class 2, no different. Mountain bike, BMX, class 1 and class 2. They're all just bikes. Class 3, they treat it like a moped. So you need licensing, registration, insurance, training, and you gotta ride in the roadway.
Yeah, at all times. So class 3 bikes should never be on a trail, ever. That's owned by the borough. Should never be in a park.
Or a
Should
sidewalk.
never be on a sidewalk, ever. They're quasi motorcycles. They're mopeds. Remember the old mopeds when you pedaled and ran it? It ramped up and you rode, and it was the only cool friend you knew that could actually get across town with them years ago. That's basically what it is, but with electric batteries instead. So class 1 and class 2 are, for all intents and purposes, they're regulated the same as pedal bicycles, so long as you didn't jailbreak it and change it to go faster.
So the bikes on the sidewalk, class 1, class 2 regular bikes, is there a direction that they should actually go in? Because I feel like if I'm driving and I pull out, I typically look onto oncoming traffic, but I feel like if someone's coming on
So-
the sidewalk in the opposite
so-
direction, that's.
Yeah, let me, because I think it's important that we set the right tone. Depending on the age, right?
Yeah,
Bicycles really shouldn't be, our interpretation is bicycles should, our opinion is bicycles really shouldn't be on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Right, you shouldn't be driving or riding 20 miles an hour down the sidewalk when people are walking with baby carriages and stuff. And they're really supposed to be ridden in the road. There may be a situation where there's young children who are riding small bikes, sometimes with training wheels, that may be appropriate to be on the sidewalks.
so
And
it's
that's,
all sidewalks,
and-
it's not.
and that's what the council is grappling with right now. You know, how do we manage this? I will say, thankfully, we haven't had any problems right now that I can think of with kids riding on the sidewalk at any age outside the business district. I can tell you, we have had countless problems in the business district with kids of all ages and adults riding on the sidewalks. So they're in this flux, basically, identifying the safest way to deal with this. The goal is not to push young children into the highway or the roadway and put them at risk, and we also don't want 15-year-old kids riding on the sidewalk either. So these are the balances. But right now, no, we don't have, the sidewalks are not governed like the roadway is, where we have I mean, you would think stand the right to go in one direction,
Yeah.
but there are no laws that stipulate that. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The laws are that they should really be in the roadway.
So those safety classes, they teach when you get to, if you're riding the bike on the sidewalk as a young kid, when you get to your crosswalk, you're supposed to stop, get off the bike, walk your bike across the street on that crosswalk, and then you can continue riding. They don't want people zipping, because like you mentioned, you're not expecting a bicycle to come cruising through that crosswalk intersection,
But it's even like driveways, right, like, so.
and then the driveways,
that's
cars
more
backing out.
Concern, because like
Yeah.
when you're pulling up, you kind of look first in the one direction where cars would be coming, and
Mhm.
you're not looking that someone's riding on.
Or
Sidewalk
pedestrian
directly.
walking, they're so slow, and you check to your left, they're not there.
Yeah,
Reasonable, in 2 seconds, they're not gonna appear. You get a bike doing 20 down the sidewalk, all of a sudden you checked it, you look this way, you go that way, and they're there. So,
Yeah.
We haven't seen much of that. We know we have seen our kids on e-bikes going so fast they can't stop and go right out into the street and hit a car that was waiting to make a right turn.
Yeah.
We have seen that.
A quick question on helmets, Chief.
Yeah.
What's the law with helmets for all bikes? Like, at what age are they required to have a helmet no matter what?
Under the age of 17, everybody has to have a helmet.
Everyone under the age of 17.
Under the age of 17. So 17 and older, it's sort of optional on bicycles. It is, except for e-bikes, it's highly encouraged. It really, the tone should be everybody should have a helmet on, right? There's, you want to mention that?
Yeah, I believe e-bikes, you have to wear a helmet.
No matter what.
Yeah, pedal bikes and class 1, class 2, regular bikes under 17 requires a helmet.
Is there ever been any kind of conversation about, like, from an enforcement perspective, on class 1s versus class 3s, that, oh, I see a kid didn't have a helmet, I can stop them, and now I can just check what kind of e-bike this is and take action from there, right?
I mean, yeah, sure you can.
It depends if we'll still treat it as a bicycle. So if they're violating the laws of the roadway, like it seemed like a muscle power bicycle is, we can stop them constitutionally because they're in violation of the state law. For example, all regular bicycles are supposed to have a bell on it, right? So if they don't have the bell, and we can clearly see that there's reasonable articulable suspicion that they're in violation of the state law, then we can stop them. And then from there, after speaking with them, we can see if, if it's an illegal e-bike, if it's not an illegal e-bike. Just because we stop them, and if we stop them constitutionally within the laws, and we determine that there's no violation, we don't have probable cause then to issue a summons, if that makes a little sense. From like a constitutional standpoint of how we could just, because we can't just stop every single kid riding a bicycle to say, hey, we want to check to see what this is. There has to be some kind of violation. Either we have to know that specifically they're riding a class 3 bike, or they violated some kind of state law while riding, a class 1, class 2 bike, the same that they would with a regular bicycle.
We get a little bit of leeway with juveniles. The courts, we have a little more leeway because if we believe that they're at risk, it's kind of like if they're out really late at night, we do have some more leeway for that, especially if they're violating the law, without a doubt. So there is some, so parentis locus, locus parentis is like we stand, much like when we deal with kids.
We stand in lieu of.
So we sort of act as guardians to make sure they're doing the right thing. It's tough. Some of them are taking off on us. We've had that happen already, where kids have taken off on us. That's not going to fare well. I can tell you, share it with everybody at home. If the kid's taking off on us on an e-bike, and we find out who they are, there's going to be serious problems.
Yeah,
Serious.
if they're violating the law
Serious
by
violations, yeah.
riding around recklessly, carelessly, and things of that nature, we can certainly stop them then at that point. Because there would be violating state law. Yes, sir.
We have seen some tandem riding or two kids on an e-bike riding. Is that acceptable or shed some light on that?
It is not. So, you cannot ride more people than the bike was designed to hold. So if they're riding tandem, even on a regular bicycle, actually, it's not permitted. So if they put pegs on the bikes and someone's standing on the bike, the pegs while somebody's sitting, it's a violation of Title 39.
You said in your presentation that they could, if they get summons or whatever, that could delay their license.
Yes.
Is that if they have their permit, or can it, like if someone's 15, they don't even have their permit yet, could that delay
Yes.
them being
If they're
17?
12, so if they're riding a class 3 e-bike at 12 years old, and we write a summons for an unlicensed driver, an uninsured, unregistered, they're not getting a license at 17.
That's gonna hold for 5 years.
Because the violation would be unlicensed driver, so it'd be essentially like if they drove a motor vehicle underage and they didn't have a driver's license.
More likely than not, if we catch a 12-year-old on a class 3 e-bike,
Yeah.
we will be citing the parents.
Oh,
Yeah. So what will happen is they're going to get a DO number early. Because if we write someone under the age of 17 a violation, what happens is motor vehicle creates a driver's license number for them, and then that stays with them. So our goal is not to do that.
yeah, no,
But for those who are putting us in a position where they're sort of compromising for everybody else, who are riding class 1 and class 2 bikes, they may suffer those consequences. There are other things that we can do before we get to that point, and we will do it. Honestly, I would probably be more inclined to write the parent first than the kid that's 12 or 13 for riding a class 3 bike before I write the kid for it. And then maybe on a second offense, and the kid didn't get it, then I would write the kid for it. But, so there are things we could do.
And what that offense would be allowing an unlicensed driver to operate a motor vehicle, essentially, is what we would write somebody for that offense. For like the parent, if you own the bike, that's something that we could explore with the municipal prosecutor. If somebody were to be in violation of that, would we issue summons to the parent for allowing an unlicensed person to operate a motor vehicle, which a class 3 bike in the state of New Jersey would be considered a motor vehicle, because it's a motorized bicycle like a moped, motorcycle, things of that nature.
Well, we too also tried registering it, and it's.
I know, it's, like I said, this is all new, even with the DMV, state legislator, so this is all for police, for parents, right?
Yeah.
So this is all new. So we're trying to do our best to kind of navigate through all of this. And most importantly, to make sure that our kids are safe, right?
And it's going to change. It's going to change again in short order. I'm certain of it. regulations will likely come out of this. So, man, I want the kids to enjoy it. I really do. I just want them to do it safely. They shouldn't cut wires and change bikes. and
No,
things like that.
he rides it responsibly, but he's trying to get it registered, like he ended up selling it now because he's too nervous riding around that he's just gonna get pulled over because of his bike. But he did try.
How old is he?
15.
Okay, all right. So he's at that age where he could get licensed, but
Well, yeah, that's why he wasn't sure if it was permit, like he still has some time before his permit, that's why, you know, he's now, I think, one of his friends actually has his permit that is delayed, at 17, and I thought it was because he already has his driving permit. But it sounds like even at 15 or 12, that could still impact him.
Well, he sounds very responsible, so that's
He's
good.
trying, yeah.
And I mean,
Good Lord.
class 1 or class 2 that does 20, most of the streets in Chatham Borough,
Go,
yeah, most of the streets in Chatham Borough are 25 miles an hour anyway.
yeah.
So 25 miles an hour, so if you get a bike that does 20, you're getting around wherever you gotta get.
Yeah, that's fine. I just feel like some type 2s actually go like 25 or 28. It's really hard to find one that's exactly 20 miles.
let me clear that up. It's not a class 2 bike that goes 25.
Yeah.
Legally, it's not class 2. That's what I'm trying to say. That happens all the time. You bring up a great point. If that bike was created to go, yeah, we gotta go, right? If that bike was created to go above 20 miles an hour, it's not class 2. You've
But I
got it.
think it's, yeah, they
So-
still classify. Like, who knows? It's
So-
probably just a bad website or something like
So
that.
if you go down a hill and you're going a little above 20 in a class 1 or class 2,
Yeah.
that's considered over. You're not supposed to go over 20, but it wouldn't be a violation of its classification. But if that bike on a flat surface goes over 20, then it's in
And
violation.
that's like assisted, not pedal, because like you could pedal over, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's just
So yes,
if you're holding it.
yes. So it should not, it should have a governor on it to stop it at 20.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, once again, please, go on our website. We have the Rutgers Mobility presentation up there. We have this presentation up there. We have a cheat sheet guide up there. Take a picture of your kid's bike, put it on ChatGPT, and say, what classification is this? How fast does it go? Make sure they're wearing a helmet. The last thing you're gonna worry about, a summons, when we come to the house with EMS, or you're going to Morristown Medical Center for a trauma, right? So please share it with everybody, and thank you for coming out. We sincerely appreciate it. On behalf of Lieutenant Shivers and Captain Jerumba and Tom Chung, our SLEO, thank you all for coming out. And Officer Pereira, who happens to be certified to ride bicycle, right? Yes, so he's in
Not
an
e-bike.
expert. Not an e-bike, he's certified to ride pedal bikes, so some people still ride pedal bikes. And for the physical fitness, my girls ride a pedal bike. Yeah, that might be an option too. I know everybody wants to zip around town, but pedal bikes are good for their health too, so I think they get a little more out of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. I really
Get
appreciate
home
it. Thank you
safe.
for coming out.
Thank you for the school, sorry we ran late.
And if you're riding out of here on a class 3 e-bike, we'll see you, in the.
Thank you up there, by the way.